Здравейте и добре дошли! Аз съм Хриси, а това е подкастът "Успех без граници". Всяка седмица си говорим с българи, работещи и живеещи в чужбина, които ни споделят тяхната история и ни разказват за предизвикателствата и успехите по пътя, който са избрали. Днешният епизод е по-различен по няколко причини. Основната разлика е, че днешният епизод е на английски. Реших да запиша разговорът ми с Анди не на български, защото той живее от малък в Америка. И макар да носи в себе си българския дух, основният език, на който говори всеки ден, е английският. Също така този епизод дава по-различна перспектива на един българин, който се мести на 10 годишна възраст, без да знае езика и без да познава културата. Анди разказва не само за това как се смесват българската и американската култура, но и за това с какво е по-различен неговия опит от този на други емигранти от други нации. Надявам се епизодът да ви хареса и да ви бъде интересен.
Hi, Andy. Thanks for joining us today. It's a good morning for me, a good evening for you, since you're based in California, right?
That's right. Yeah. Good evening. Good morning.
Yes. Great for joining us. We're going to be recording this episode in English to spice things up a little bit. And I look forward to our conversation. So you moved from Bulgaria when you were 10 years old. How did that feel? How was that as an experience as a 10-year-old? You just kind of realize how life in school works, and then you're taken out of your comfort zone and put in a totally different place. How did you experience that? How did you feel about it?
Yeah. It was a very interesting. Well, first of all, hello, audience. Great to meet you. It was very interesting. So I moved from Bulgaria, Sofia, to California, Sacramento, California, when I was 10. And for myself, when I picture California, I always saw the palm trees, the beaches, like that. That's what it was. Like wherever you are in California.
The movie picture of California.
Exactly. So for those of you who haven't been to Sacramento, it's not that. It's just a city in the middle of a valley, and it's not a bad city, but it's not the beach California we see in Hollywood. So I moved here, and I was a little disappointed at first. It's just I think I was expecting the world, and I didn't get it. But America was a lot different than what I expected. In other ways, I think that I really, I envisioned flying cars and all these amazing, crazy things. I was 10 years old, obviously. And it was a culture shock, for sure. I think that people were definitely a little bit nicer than from where I moved, from Lulein for the Bulgarians out there. People were generally a little bit nicer. There was a lot less English speakers than I expected. Like when I first started 5th grade, halfway through the year, I was put into actually an ESL class, which for anyone who doesn't know, it's English as a second language class. So California has a lot of Spanish speakers, people coming in from Mexico, other places of the world. And I think that really helped me integrate a little bit, because I was able to kind of like be alongside with people that didn't speak English as well. So
they were having the same struggles, right?
They were having very similar struggles. That's right. So it was a very interesting experience. I remember one time they were doing some activities, and I was a little left out because they were doing it a lot in Spanish, but it was still nice to be kind of part of a group than just being a complete outsider.
Well, you were kind of learning English and Spanish at the same time, right?
Yes. I'm not a Spanish speaker at all. I need to learn. My girlfriend's family is from Chile, so I need to learn. Like it's a requirement.
No pressure.
Yeah, and I think that really allowed me. But on the other side of things, I think that some of the Spanish speakers also saw it as like a way to bully me. Like it's not everyone, but there was also that side of things as well. I got in a little bit of trouble. I think that I got in a couple of fights, things like that. And I'm not a fighter at all. I'm actually, I don't think I won any of my fights. So
the effort counts, I guess.
Effort, exactly. I defended myself. That's what it came down to. Thankfully, I grew up to be 6'3", so people don't generally try and get in fights with me. And I guess I got the Bulgarian genes. There you go. So yes,
We are fighters in
exactly.
one way or another.
And we're big
That's for
people
sure.
too. We're like bigger European people as well.
Well, compared to Scandinavians, we're still tiny. So
That's true. That is very true. But yeah, I mean, my first couple of years were heavily, school related. I had a lot of that going on, and I think it was about 2 years in. I think I was in seventh grade that I started finally feeling like I was American. Like when I started thinking in English, it was a very interesting switch in my brain that I was just like, oh, this is. I feel like I'm slowly assimilating into this culture, and um, yeah, it was very interesting, and obviously, it didn't stop there. I can keep talking about this, by the way. I don't want to take too much from the other questions.
no, it's fine. It's quite interesting because most of the people who join the podcast have moved abroad rather in a late stage of their life. I moved abroad when I was 18, so after graduating high school. And yeah, I think it's a very different experience when you move as a kid because you still haven't really found yourself and clearly have an identity as a person. You're still a kid, you're trying things out. And I remember how I was when I was 10 years old. Have I was totally different person. I was very shy. I would never speak up. And so that changed, thankfully. Um, but yeah, I think those are very key years where you change and you kind of mix a lot. Like you probably mix some Bulgarian stuff with some American stuff, and you kind of, yeah, you kind of blend, I guess.
Yeah, no, and I have to give a lot of credit to my mom. She's the reason that me and my brother were able to move out here to California. She was actually studying in New York for a while, and then she managed to move out here, got remarried. So me and my brother were able to move out, and she really kept a lot of the culture going. Like if it wasn't for my mom, I probably wouldn't speak any Bulgarian. Even as bad as it is right now, I still speak it to some extent. But she also, we do the Christmas Eve traditions with all of the foods. She loves to make banichki on a regular basis whenever I visit. Um, she actually has my little siblings in horo classes and like these little Bulgarian schools. So um,
It's
and we
amazing.
briefly talked about this right before we recorded, but as a teenager, I found it kind of annoying. I was like, we're in America, we got to do it American way. And now thinking back, it's like, man, like she really like fought for us to have like a multicultural experience, which I think at the end of the day is a much better way to look at the world.
I think there every culture or every country has a lot to offer, and it's up to you to pick it up and just integrate it. And I've lived in 4 countries now, and I've picked up from each country something. Like even if it's a small thing as I don't know, starting to like beer when I moved to Germany, because until that day I still don't like Bulgarian beer. It's too bitter for me. But yeah, what's your favorite Bulgarian tradition?
Oh man, you know, this is probably a weird one, but I just have such good memory of I forgot what the holiday was called, but it was actually it was a ritual that was like almost like it wasn't satanic, but it was like they put the giant costumes on with like the hairy monster costumes. Do you remember what those were? I don't remember what it was called.
Do you mind the cookery?
Yes, cook it in. That's right. That was like the weird tradition that I remember. I think my favorite has to be either Martinichki. It's
Those
such a
are
cute
everyone's
tradition.
favorite. Yeah.
It's such an easy one, but also like the baked bread charm on Christmas Eve. That's always a good one. I think that especially with my little siblings, that's a really fun one to do. They're 12 and 14 right now, and it just kind of like something that is such an easy way to mix American tradition with Bulgarian because well, not everyone, the Western world celebrates Christmas everywhere, so it's easy to just kind of mix it up.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like you bring your favorite parts and you just mix it or integrate them into a different culture, and that's quite cool.
Yeah,
But yeah,
exactly.
the
And
brand
I
is
think
fun
that
only if you get the money in it. If you don't get the money, then it's not really fun. And as a
you,
kid, my grandma used to always make sure that I get the piece with the money. And now it's just like, look, so basically I never get it. And yeah, not that fun.
yeah, I always like getting health. I'm kind of a big health guy, so it's like I like when I get that, but money's always nice too. I'm not gonna lie.
But yeah,
But yeah, it's really interesting that you kind of talk about assimilating. I mean, this is a little bit off topic, but I moved to Southern California about 3 years ago from Sacramento, and I didn't know anything about the culture, and I've slowly started becoming like surfing and like all this stuff, and it's so interesting how quickly you can just move into something new and become part of it, even as an adult.
absolutely. But I mean, when you move, doesn't matter, different country, different continent, different city, you have two options. You either stick with what you know, or you open your horizon and explore what's there to offer, and you pick what's interesting to you. Like, of course, you can't pick everything, and you can't pretend like you're a local, even though you've been there for like 3 weeks. But you can be open to the world and just be like, okay, so what is this city about? What are those people about? Even here in Germany, if you compare different regions, they're so different, not only by the accent or the dialect they speak, but also the dishes they cook, the traditions they have, the even like the way they are. You have Bavaria, which is they're way more fancy and just think a lot of themselves. They're very proud. They're very Bavarian. And here people are just here in Westphalia, people are just like so laid back. They're so chill. They're so open. They're like, yeah, they're just like
Yeah,
living. Yeah.
it's funny. So I in Northern California, everyone likes to say that's hella cool. So the word hella is just kind of like a Northern California slang. And so it's like, that's hella cool, that's hella dumb, whatever. Like you can use it for whatever. And when I moved to Southern California, I think I was down here from 1 week and I was just going to the gym. I was talking to someone. And I was like, oh, dude, that's hella cool. And they're like, you're not from around here, are you? It's just such a small thing that gave me away.
What would you say in Southern California?
I think it's just really cool. That's kind of cool. Like it's there's a couple of different ways
Just
we can
not
say
hella
that. I
cool.
think just hella and hecka. It's not hella cool. No. It's a very Northern California.
Yeah.
I think maybe like if you're a surfer, you say that's sick.
But yeah, you talked about that a little bit, but I'm just curious, what was the most difficult part of like building a life in the States? I mean, of course, your mother helped a lot because she was there with you. Um, I mean, in the age of 10, you can't just go and do it by yourself. But what was the biggest struggle like um, that you had so far?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I would have to say the language. I mean, I feel like it's the most obvious one. I couldn't make friends right away. Bulgarian wasn't a very common language in
Still
California.
isn't probably.
Um, yeah, it still isn't. But a lot of other communities had that. They had people that they could talk to. Like Sacramento, for example, had a huge Russian community, and it really allowed. Like my mom became part of that. She speaks Russian, so she was really big into that. There was a huge Spanish-speaking community, and I didn't really have that. I had a couple of Bulgarian friends through my mom, but you don't connect with everyone you meet. So it's like I couldn't really be friends with every Bulgarian I met. There were like five maybe that I met along the way in school.
I'm sure there are more though.
I guess that they were my age in school. That's kind of like the main. Yeah, there were a good amount of families. Yeah, my mom was part of kind of creating this bigger community actually up there, which is really cool. They opened up a Bulgarian school, you know, and
That's so nice.
yeah, it turned out really great. Um, I think
Are
that
your little siblings going there?
they are actually, yeah, they're learning, you know, choro and all of that good stuff.
Well, that's great.
Yeah,
How are your horror skills?
horrible. I don't think that I even did them when I was younger. I think my brother was forced into it, and somehow I just didn't end up in that.
You got away with it,
I guess
right?
I got away with it.
Well, you only need one Bulgarian wedding and then you'll learn all of them.
It's funny though. My brother got married a couple years ago, and I think it's easy, right? It's like 2 steps right, 1 step left, and like it's pretty easy to do. So like we actually all started doing
Well, the
it.
easy ones are easy. The more complicated ones are
Just give me
challenging.
this one. I'm good at choro.
Okay, sorry. Sorry. You
Yeah.
can do the Pravo Horo.
Uh, yeah, so I think my mom like snuck in a little bit of Bulgarian culture in my brother's wedding that way.
Yeah, those are good ones though. Those are really nice ones.
Yeah,
Because there are also some traditions that might be a bit outdated or more controversial, but those are
yeah,
just really nice.
yeah, and I think the language, it went beyond just learning how to speak English. I mean, at a certain point, I could communicate pretty well, but then people started making fun of how I pronounce things, and then after a while, it didn't even seem like I had an accent. It almost seemed like I had a lisp, and people started making fun of me because of that. Um, so it kind of stayed with me for a long time. I think it was probably like midway through high school, so like ninth or 12th grade, that I finally was able to start speaking more clearly, more confidently, and yeah, it was very interesting because that is definitely like the biggest thing that really stuck with me through the years that I struggled with.
Well, yeah, understandable because I mean, you people always try to pick on your weakness and then they focus on that, right? And it's not like something you can change
Yeah.
overnight. I mean,
That's right, especially in high school, right? When you're dealing with like insecure teenagers and they try and make fun of anyone who's different. And you know, I'm not trying to say that I was like the only one that was picked on. I was a stupid teenager too. I bullied someone on accident or on purpose too, and it's just part of the experience here. Unfortunately, I think I had that experience in Bulgaria as well. I don't know how much that extended past like the first couple of grades because I only stayed until 5th grade. But yeah, the accent bullying was real.
yeah, can imagine. But then you graduated, you got rid of the accent, you moved to university. Where did you study?
Yeah, that's right. So I had an interesting college experience. So I moved out at 18. I started going to college, and I did my first year, and then I did a semester, and then I dropped out. I just wasn't motivated. I didn't really have what I wanted to do, um, and after like a year and a half or two of just kind of partying, just being not very motivated, not very focused, I finally got back to college. I started taking classes, and I think that at that point I was a lot more American. I feel like I needed that like a year and a half too to just kind of like do the things that are like traditionally American. You go out partying, you drink, you do all this stupid stuff that you do. You turn 21, right?
I love how you
And
said you get drunk, you drink a lot, and then you turn 21.
exactly. Oh my god, yeah. You didn't hear it here. No.
I'm sure you're the only one
Exactly.
underage American who ever had a drink before 21.
Oh my gosh. No, I know. In Bulgaria, I think my grandpa like gave me a beer when I was like 6 or 7 just to try. So it's like I feel like it's a normal thing. It's not like I never had alcohol before, but I definitely needed to just experience that because again, you go back to culture and you see what you see in the movies, what you see in Hollywood. That's what people do, and it's. I mean, honestly, it's unhealthy. It's a very unhealthy thing for a lot of young people to do, and I'm not saying I'm some kind of like old and wise type person, but when that's what you see that people do, and that's what you want to do, right? It's just ingrained. But once I started getting a little more serious, I started, studying. I kind of focused on marketing, and actually, the reason I focused on marketing was two-part. My older brother started working in like organic marketing, SEO type role, and then the other one was I started watching Mad Men. For anyone that's not familiar with the show, it's basically based on this misogynistic alcoholic back in the 60s. And it was like about the ad game and how it was so cool and so creative. And, when you watch it the first time, you're like, oh, that's so cool. That's what I want to do. And it got me. I was really into it. I was really, really interested.
So you basically want to do advertising in the 60s.
I wanted to do 60s advertising in a modern way. That was my mentality. That's kind of how I was thinking about it.
Okay, that's cool. That's a good spin. Good spin.
Yeah, that's how I was thinking about it. But it took me a couple of years to realize the modern way of advertising is kind of similar. It's honestly such a harsh career choice because of like the crazy hours they expect you to work, the honestly the sometimes demeaning conversations you have with clients and your own peers. That's just what the job is a lot of times. But at first, I started doing internships. I moved from college. I transferred into a university into Southern California. It was a smaller school. It was called CSU Channel Islands. For anyone interested, it's actually really cool. It was actually one of the smaller universities, but the fact that it was smaller really allowed me to grow a lot more. It allowed me to talk to higher, people in management, people who were running the school. I started participating in all these different organizations, and the school is also was heavily Hispanic. It's just a community that it is built in. It's just a lot of people coming in from Mexico. It's a huge farming community as well, and I think that really. I want to say that humbled me, to be honest, because I always saw myself as an immigrant, and I am. Don't get me wrong, I'm an immigrant, but it is not to the same extent that these people come and they don't really have the guidance that I actually had. And I think it allowed me to see it for what it was. That there's people that are more privileged than me, but I also have a ton of privilege that I was given coming to the States and being guided by the people that I was guided by. And I wasn't persecuted because honestly, I looked American. Like a lot of times that even though I didn't speak English, a lot of people would look at me and they wouldn't think twice. For these people, that wasn't the case sometimes. So I think that was a really humbling experience. I graduated with a business and administration degree with a focus in marketing. And then for the last year and a half, I've been working in marketing. And yeah, so that's kind of my college career. It was really a really interesting and cool time, introspective. If there's anyone that's still in college right now, what I'm going to tell you is don't spend your time partying. You don't have to work all hours of the night, but just do new things. Because you're going to drink your life away and it just gets boring and depressing.
Wise words. No, I think from my experience, I think definitely college or university should be a good balance of studying, getting the most out of your lectors, your professors, your mentors, but also just socializing, networking, getting to know people. I think those are the most important takeaways from university. I to that day, still some of my best friends are from university, and the bond that we have, I don't think will ever change or be broken just because of the whole experience that we went through together and everything that we had to deal with together.
Exactly. No, I 100% agree with that. I think I have lifelong friends now because of the things I did. And don't get me wrong, we went out and we party a little bit, but I think that the conversation we had in between, the things we've done together, how we've pushed each other to grow and develop. And I mean, I also have stayed pretty close with a couple of professors that really kind of like struck like a chord with me. One of my professors that had this really hard conversation with me. I actually just spoke with her like recently, and I think because she was able to be so honest with me, I now respect her more because of that. So, as someone who was an immigrant and sometimes tried to hide away from it and was like, oh, I had it so hard. It was just very interesting. And like, again, if anyone's out there or just like trying new experiences, that's the best thing you can do.
Yeah. But when you said, you are an immigrant and you try to hide it, are you now at that point where you can proudly say, yeah, I come from Bulgaria, but I also am American? Like, I am Bulgarian, but I am American? Or is it like one leans more towards the other?
I think I don't try to hide it. I think I'm pretty open with where I'm from. I think that I'm honest with myself, knowing that I'm more American. Um, I do American things. I have American expectations. I have American ideals. I feel that, or at least liberal American ideals. How about that? um, and yeah, so I don't really try and hide from it. I feel like in high school actually was like the biggest point where I wasn't really didn't really want to talk about it. I didn't really want to be part of it. And then like right after graduating high school, I feel like I was too open. I was proud and I was trying to be like more Bulgarian than I really was. Like the fact is that like I didn't really go out to these a ton of Bulgarian celebrations. I participated with what my mom kind of did. And now I'm just finding this balance of like, hey, this is who I am, this is where my family's from. But the reality is I also live and have become American.
Which, I mean, you spend most of your life in the US, so that makes sense, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But I have to ask you because you also have a podcast. How did you decide to do that and why?
Yeah, there's a couple different reasons, and I appreciate you bringing it up. Selfless plug, the Stakeholders podcast is a great listen. You guys check it out. Um, I graduated last year in May, and in 2020, and what happened was that I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I started working immediately out of university. I was lucky enough to have a job during COVID, and I realized that where I was going with that career path wasn't really something that was going to make me happy in the long term. But I didn't know what was going to make me happy. So I started thinking, what do I need to learn? What do I need to focus on? I really think that I have strong entrepreneurial skills, and that's where I want to go eventually. But I think that I just need to talk to the people that are where I want to be at some point. And and I decided to start talking to those people. The first couple of episodes were people I knew, people in my own network. I wanted to talk to them about how they think about different things, my professors that I've had smaller conversations about these topics. And for anyone who's not familiar with the stakeholder theory, the concept is there is more to business than just making profit. The idea is that in the 20th century, for whatever reason, not for whatever reason, it's for power, our society decided to focus on month over month, quarter over quarter profit. And that's what it came down to. A lot of corporations have done extremely unethical things to make sure that continues. Now, whether that's right or wrong, I'm not going to argue with everyone. I have my own opinions, but I think that the conversations of ethical business and the requirement that profit isn't the sole focus and the sole purpose of organization is something I need to learn more about. So I started talking to industry leaders, professors, educators, government officials. Very, very small scale. I don't want to like over-aggrandize myself. I talked to people, some people that were like really high up in some companies, but it was really inspiring and I'm still really inspired by some of these people, and they've given me this inspiration to go and pursue things that I want to be a part of. One thing is the Surfrider Foundation, which, for anyone not familiar, they're basically part of coastal cleanup, they are a coastal cleanup organization that also takes political action to try and make sure our oceans stay clean, that plastics don't end up in the ocean. I was inspired by the people that I talked to join organizations like that and to really start acting. And that was the main reason. And I think that while talking to those people, it allowed me to process some of my own my own narratives that were kind of incorrect, or maybe were kind of unethical on their own, and I was able to kind of work through those as well. So there are a couple of different reasons. I hope that I verbalized them well.
Yeah, but it's quite interesting. So for anybody looking for a podcast, after listening to this one, go ahead and I'll put a link in the description. Um,
Thank you.
Unfortunately, we're kind of out of time, but before I let you go, I need to ask you one more question. In case you've listened to other podcast episodes, you know what the question is. So, from all the successes you've had, and I mean, you're still quite young in your career, but you are quite experienced in sense of getting over overcoming actually struggles and challenges. What is your biggest success so far, and why?
Oh, that's a great question. This is not really a financial success at all. And this is actually, I did this during my university time. So would you allow it if it wasn't my career?
Doesn't have to be career, it can be a
All right.
personal success. Most of the people actually never go for a career choice or career success. Most people say talk about their personal success rather than work. So
Yeah. The reason I say that is because I recently moved into recruiting for marketing and creative, and I feel like I'm still making my name there. So I'm not quite to a point where I can be cocky yet. But in my
yes.
university, exactly. In my university time, I started an organization called the American Marketing Association. It was part of an national association already that I helped bring on campus. And I'm really proud of that because I never started something on my own like that before. And I think that's where my entrepreneurial kind of like spirit came from, is like from doing that. And during my time, I was able to kind of influence a lot of people into a marketing career. And I think I'm really proud of that because it is still going strong right now. There's still that organization like a couple years after I've been there already. And it's just cool to see that I actually managed to establish something that is still going strong without me.
Well, you left your mark there, that's for sure. And it's a really cool
Yeah.
thing to start. So congrats on that one. Definitely
Thank you.
something you should be proud of.
I appreciate it. Yeah. I mean, thank you so much for having me. Christiana, it was a pleasure to talk with you. It was a pleasure to reminisce a little bit.
Thanks for joining. Thanks for sharing your story. It's definitely a different angle on what we usually talk about, but I just feel like there's so many facets and there are so many different stories that you cannot just look at one or the other and ignore the rest. So thank you for taking the time to talk to us today.
Absolutely.
Благодаря ви, че бяхте с нас. Надявам се да сте успели да научите нещо полезно от днешния епизод и да сте се вдъхновили от споделената история. Ако подкастът ви е харесал, ще се радвам да оставите оценка в iTunes или да ни последвате в Instagram. До скоро и до нови срещи!